Day 27 of 100 Days of Code as I'm learning the Python programming language. This video is to track my progress and to hold myself accountable. So for day 27, I continue to work with lists, and I particularly focused on slicing operations in Python when you're working with lists. And what that does is it allows us to access a range of elements rather than just one particular element out of the list. I'm going to start by going to day 26 and grabbing my list and just copy it over. All right. And in previous videos, I used an index to pull out an element. When you're slicing operations in the list, you would actually use a range. So you would use the square brackets. And let's say that I want to pull the first element. So that would be position 1, which is index 0. And then I would use the colon and indicate the element that I want to go up to. The last position is excluded. For example, if I put 3 here, it'll go from position 1 up to 3, but excluding that position. So this will pull out 0, 1, 2. It'll pull out the first 3 elements. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this in a print function, print this out, and actually I need to, it's threads. And you can see that it pulled out fishing, beacon, and C2 from our threads list. Let's say I wanted to call the entire list. I'm going to go ahead and comment this out so this doesn't execute as code. If I wanted to call out this entire list, I'm going to start by getting the length of the list, and then I would wrap this in a print function. The length of this list is 4 elements, and that's obvious. You can count it here, but I did want to show you that you can pull that out if you have a list that is significantly long. You could use the length function, which is len, and it will print out the number of elements in that list. Now, if I wanted to call out this entire list, I could do so by using my square brackets again, starting with 0. And I'm going to do anything beyond 4. So I can actually use 4 and it'll pull out my whole entire list. And that's because this is 0. Remember, we're working with computers, which work with binary. So we're starting with 0, our starting position, 1, 2, and 3. So anything beyond that is going to pull out the entire list. Even if I put 7 here, it's still going to pull out the entire list. You can also start at any position in the list. Let's say, and this time I'm going to use the new threats list, and I'm going to start at position 1, which will be, so position 1 is going to be beacon. This is actually going to combine this entire list because the new threats list consists of threats and threats 2. I'm going to start at position 1, and I'm going to go up to position 7, but excluding position 7. When I run this, you can see that it returns 5 because that's all there is. So if it were 5 here, this would return 1, 2, 3, and 4 elements. Beacon, because it starts at position 1. So beacon, C2, insider, script execution. Again, you can start at any position and return elements. I changed it to position 2, which would be C2, up to script execution. And this will be referred to as a sub-range because it's pulling out a range within our list. You can also leave a position blank. So if I left this blank, it's actually automatically going to start with the first position when you omit that, and it'll go up to position 5, but excluding position 5. So if I print this, it starts with fishing and it goes up to. You can also do the same for, let's say I want to start at that position, and you can omit the second. So it'll actually print out everything beyond that starting position, which is 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, which is insider, script execution, and hacking tool. You can also use negative. So if I were to, let's say -3, and so remember when you're using a negative based on a prior video that I did, it's going to start backwards. So -1 would be the last one, -2, second to last, so on and so forth. So -3 would actually be insider, and you can again leave that blank, but let's see what it'll do. I think it may return the last 3. You can also have it to include both negatives. So this will go insider, script execution, and it will not include hacking tool because it excludes the last position. So it'll just include those two. If we run this, you can see that it includes only those two elements. If you do a range that doesn't make sense to Python, so let's put -1 and -3, it will actually return an empty string. That's because this is beyond this position. So -1 comes after. And so this operation actually does not make sense to Python. So in closing, again, the slicing operation in Python allows you to basically access a range of elements. You can also access a subrange by including a starting position and an ending position, which is the starting index and the ending index in your list.